Chinemo awakens inside a wolf-eared boy while a shaman carves blood across his chest. His beast transformation fails and his own father allows the tribe to cast him out. He receives no system, but perfect memories from Earth preserve every survival skill he researched. Those memories soon help him create stone weapons, traps, shelter, and the tribe's first controlled fire. His earliest victory comes when one thrown spear drops a fox chasing an abandoned rabbit girl. Saving Chinyu gives Chinemo someone to protect, but also another hungry mouth in the wilderness. Together, two rejected children begin proving that intelligence can replace the powers their tribes worship. Before long, their lonely cave becomes the first spark of an entirely different civilization. Chinemo barely understands his new body when the initiation ritual ends in disgust. The old wolf shaman sees no beast form emerging beneath the blood-painted skin. Instead of offering guidance, the elder orders the failed boy away from sacred ground. Children who once followed Chinemo now escort him toward the border with frozen expressions. No one protests because anyone unable to transform is considered useless during a hunt. Even the Wolf King watches his son leave without offering food protection or mercy. Beyond the territory lies open grassland filled with predators stronger than any ordinary human. Yet Chinemo refuses to waste strength mourning people who already abandoned him. He touches the unfamiliar ears above his head and begins walking south toward distant mountains. Reaching those peaks takes several exhausting days of hunger, thirst, and sleepless caution. Eventually, he discovers a dry cave halfway up a slope beside a clear stream. The position offers waterstone trees and enough height to notice approaching danger. Berries and wild greens keep him alive, but his wolf blood constantly demands meat. Chinemo builds crude traps, though most collapse before catching anything useful. One snare finally captures a rabbit, giving him enough energy to improve his weapons. He spends 2 days shaping stone points and fastening them onto straight wooden shafts. While practicing beside the stream, he spots something racing through the tall grass. A tiny rabbit-eared girl is fleeing a fox large enough to tear her apart. The predator closes rapidly, forcing the girl to use one desperate survival maneuver. She flips backward and kicks with both legs, sending the surprised fox tumbling aside. Chinemo releases his spear before the beast can recover from that sudden impact. The stone point strikes from 20 meters away and drives deep into the fox. Although wounded, the animal claws at the shaft until its legs finally collapse. Seeing Chinemo approach with another weapon, the rabbit girl drops onto her knees. She expects the wolf-eared stranger to kill her after finishing the fox. Instead, Chinemo walks past and begins skinning the carcass with a stone blade. The sight overwhelms her so completely that she faints beside the bloody grass. When she awakens inside his cave, she immediately searches for a way to escape. Chinemo reassures her that he eats animals, not other beast-eared people. Her weakness prevents her from running far, and her history soon becomes obvious. She also failed her tribe's transformation ceremony and was expelled without protection. Worse, rabbit people in human form cannot properly survive on tough wild plants. Different tribes gave them different ears, but rejection placed them in the same position. The girl watches curiously as Chinemo struggles with an invention she has never seen. For several days, his bow drill produces only smoke and bitter frustration. Then one spark catches among dry shavings and a tiny orange flame rises. The rabbit girl screams because her people understand fire only as uncontrolled disaster. Chinemo celebrates instead, knowing this flame means warmth, safety, cooking, and preservation. That night, he cleans the fox hide while the controlled fire dries the leather. He remembers curing methods from research performed during his previous life on Earth. Chinemo once wrote novels and studied farming medicine, pottery, hunting, and primitive technology. Ironically, he designed countless magical systems for fictional heroes but receives none himself. His only advantage is flawless recall, allowing every old memory to replay with perfect clarity. The fox hide becomes a rough bed, spread across a mound of dry grass. The rabbit girl remains because Chinemo seems safe and she has nowhere else. He accepts her company, grateful for another pair of hands in the lonely cave. Roasted fox meat smells terrible beneath his newly sharpened wolf senses. Hunger defeats disgust, and Chinemo eats despite having no salt or seasoning. A growling stomach reveals that his silent guest is equally desperate for nourishment. He offers her meat and she grabs it before fear can change her mind. Although descended from herbivores, her human-like body appears capable of digesting animal protein. They consume nearly half the fox and preserve the remaining meat for later. Before sleeping, Chinemo buries hot embers beneath ash to protect the precious flame. Branches and a heavy root block the entrance against predators roaming after dark. The rabbit girl startles when Chinemo's eyes glow faintly green inside the cave. Those wolf eyes provide night vision, another natural trait his ritual failure did not erase. By morning, she is curled against him for warmth, despite fearing wolves yesterday. Chinemo realizes this frightened child has already begun trusting him with her life. He also realizes that remaining naked creates several embarrassing and dangerous practical problems. Clothing becomes another priority, especially before sharp branches injure something impossible to replace. When he invites the girl to gather food, her entire expression brightens. That simple invitation confirms she is no longer merely a temporary guest. During their descent, Chinemo repeatedly teaches her how to pronounce his name. Her broken attempts slowly improve until she finally produces something close enough. He names her Chinyu after the pale jade rabbit remembered from old legends. Once she understands, Chinyu bounces across the slope, clutching her first stone spear. At the stream, she eagerly eats yellow flowers and offers some to Chinemo. He refuses unknown plants, unwilling to gamble against poison without reliable knowledge. Instead, he wades into the clear water and practices striking fish below the surface. Roughly 50 attempts produce only 3 catches, but those fish provide a proper meal. Chinyu cuts her finger while copying his method for stripping bark from branches. Chinemo applies chewed bloodgrass, recognized through the body's inherited tribal memories. Even primitive clans possess valuable knowledge passed through instinct, observation, and painful experience. His modern education does not make him superior at every wilderness task. Chinyu's natural awareness will repeatedly notice tracks and dangers he overlooks. Together, their different strengths begin forming something neither could build alone. Chinemo weaves branches and bark into a crude container resembling a shallow bowl. He fills it with yellow clay from the stream and carries everything home. Grilled fish tastes far better than fox, though Chinyu still resists eating much. Chinemo insists because her weakened human form needs concentrated protein to recover. After lunch, he begins experimenting with clay vessels for boiling drinking water. Raw streams may contain parasites and bacteria, even when the water appears perfectly clear. Beast-eared people possess strong bodies, yet their careless habits keep lifespans painfully short. Many wolf people die around 30 after consuming raw meat and contaminated water. Chinemo believes hygiene and cooked food could let him survive twice as long. Knowledge becomes his true weapon, more dependable than claws he cannot summon. He first uses clay to seal gaps inside a small stone stove. The improved structure protects flames from mountain wind and concentrates heat beneath cookware. Leaving Chinyu alone frightens her because previous promises of return ended in abandonment. Chinemo gently assures her that he will return before the sun disappears. He descends with 2 spears, planning to gather more stone and useful clay. A violent roar suddenly rolls across the valley, followed by a boar's shriek. Chinemo drops into tall grass and crawls toward the sounds with extreme caution. In the stream, an enormous wild boar battles what appears to be a brown bear. The bear is smaller than a true wild animal, revealing a transformed tribesman. Blood pours from his belly, yet he keeps dodging the boar's deadly tusks. Then his transformation expires, leaving a bald, muscular man exposed before the charging beast. The wounded stranger catches both tusks with bare hands and slides through the water. When the boar pauses, he forces its head underwater with astonishing remaining strength. The animal thrashes free and hurls him through the air onto the stream bed. He lands hard and stops moving while the exhausted boar struggles to breathe. Chinemo recognizes an opportunity created by patience rather than superior physical power. He sprints from concealment and throws at the animal's eye from 10 meters. The spear lands perfectly, but the massive boar remains alive and furious. Half blinded, it charges as Chinemo immediately turns and runs across open ground. He refuses a direct contest against something capable of crushing his entire body. The previous battle soon weakens the boar until its shaking legs finally stop. Chinemo remains outside its reach and begins attacking with stones from a safe distance. Whenever the boar rises, he retreats. Whenever it collapses, he returns. The process continues for hours as blood loss and exhaustion steadily finish the hunt. Primitive humans once defeated stronger prey using the same relentless pursuit strategy. Intelligence allows a weaker hunter to decide where, when, and how danger happens. Under the evening's first star, Chinamo lifts a rock nearly as large as his head. He approaches the barely breathing boar and smashes its skull with one final strike. Several spear thrusts confirm the beast is dead before he lowers his guard. The carcass is too enormous to drag uphill even with Chinyu's assistance. Chinamo removes the organs and cuts away every piece of meat he can carry. Branches conceal the remainder, though circling hawks already know where it lies. The missing bear man worries him more than any scavenger watching from above. Back at the cave, Chinyu smells blood and initially believes Chinamo is injured. He proudly reveals the pork, celebrating his first kill of truly dangerous size. Chinyu's red eyes shine as fresh meat sizzles above their controlled fire. The flavor easily surpasses Fox, and even she begins enjoying cooked meat. By morning, scavengers have stripped the hidden carcass down to scattered white bones. Bite marks and tracks show that the wounded bear returned during the night. Chinyu notices the evidence first, proving herself more observant than her older companion. Chinamo accepts the lesson because wilderness survival punishes pride faster than ignorance. The boar's tusks remain useful and can become short stabbing weapons after sharpening. For the next several days, no large animals approach their section of stream. Chinemo and Chinyu spend that quiet period improving pottery through repeated failure. Most early bowls crack during firing because the temperature changes too quickly. They rebuild the kiln, adjust the flames, and alter each vessel's position. Chinemo replays old instructional videos, while Chinyu learns directly through his hands. On the 10th day, a large clay jar survives firing without splitting. Chinyu throws herself around him, celebrating their success as though defeating another predator. The jar means safer water, better storage, soup medicine, and more reliable survival. Chinemo also fashions simple clothing from cured fox skin and braided bark fiber. Their cave gradually changes from temporary shelter into an organized permanent home. While checking traps, Chinamo notices the bald bear man washing in the stream. The terrible belly wound has already sealed beneath a dark, natural scab. Bear blood grants recovery that would seem almost supernatural to an ordinary human. Chinamo remains cautious, though he knows bears cannot outrun wolves across open terrain. The two men exchange guarded acknowledgments without moving close enough to attack. During the following days, the stranger repeatedly returns while respecting Chinamo's distance. Sometimes he throws fish across the stream and Chinamo returns rabbits from his traps. Their silent exchanges slowly establish trust without requiring complicated shared language. The bear begins copying Chinamo's spear fishing with a useless, unsharpened stick. Chinyu giggles from the bank while his powerful swings miss every visible fish. Chinamo finally carves the stick into a proper wooden spear for him. Before he can return it, wolf howls spread suddenly across the valley. Chinamo grabs Chinyu and retreats, while the bear roars toward the approaching pack. 6 wolf tribesmen emerge, led by an animal marked with familiar white patches. Chinamo recognizes his father, the Wolf King, who permitted his exile. Hidden across the stream, he watches his former tribe surround the solitary bear. Their dispute escalates until the stranger transforms and tries defending his territory. 5 wolves circle him, tearing flesh whenever his slower body exposes an opening. The bear's limited transformation ends first, leaving him bleeding and unable to continue. Defeated, he walks upstream while Chinamo's father claims the entire stream. That victory threatens Chinamo because the cave and hunting grounds now border hostile territory. After finally building a home, he may be forced into exile once again. Restless firelight keeps him awake until a trap snaps outside the cave. Chinamo raises his spear and discovers the wounded bear man caught near the entrance. The sharpened stakes fail to pierce his thick foot even without beast form. Chinyu joins Chinamo with her own weapon while the stranger limps closer. He has not come to attack but to warn them before leaving. The bear knows Chinamo's former tribe may kill any outcast found nearby. Risking traps in darkness simply to deliver that warning reveals his honest gratitude. Chinemo finally shows himself moved by loyalty received from someone barely considered a friend. Through gestures, the bear explains that other non-transforming outcasts live 2 days east. They have gathered near water inside the ancestor mountains instead of dying alone. Chinemo thanks him and offers the sharpened spear prepared before the wolves arrived. The bear accepts the gift, then disappears, limping through the cold moonlight. With his old tribe expanding nearby, Chinemo chooses to seek the eastern outcasts. Spring covers the plains in green as he and Chinyu travel toward higher peaks. Deep among the mountains, a towering crater holds a brilliant blue lake. Dozens of caves surround the basin, housing rejected families from many different tribes. None can transform, yet cooperation has kept roughly 70 people alive. Their leader is a powerful tiger-eared man capable of killing wolves barehanded. His hunters use stones, heavy sticks, and bone clubs against dangerous mountain prey. Before Chinemo reaches them, those hunters pursue bighorn sheep across a lower slope. The spring hunt initially succeeds as stones separate weaker animals from the herd. Then 8 lion tribesmen race from the east and transform into enormous golden predators. Stones bounce uselessly from their hides while wooden clubs fail to stop their charge. Lion paws rip open bodies and break necks with horrifying ease. The tiger leader refuses to flee even after claws tear across his abdomen. Surrounded and bleeding, he prepares to die while taking one enemy with him. The lions return to human form and humiliate the wounded leader before his people. One presses the tiger's face into the dirt, while the others openly mock him. A spear suddenly tears from the grass and punches through a lion man's stomach. The attackers transform in panic, roaring toward an enemy they cannot locate. Another spear strikes one lion directly through the eye when he approaches the tiger. More attacks arrive from different angles, making a single hidden hunter seem like many. Unable to understand the weapon or track its user, the lions finally retreat east. Chinemo emerges only after their golden forms vanish beyond the swaying grass. His strategy succeeds because mystery frightened the lions more than visible numbers could. In truth, he remained prepared to flee if even one attacker found him. Chinemo presses medicinal grass against the tiger leader's enormous abdominal wound. The injury appears fatal, but the dying man still studies Chinemo's strange spear. Realizing Chinemo also failed transformation, he marks the newcomer's forehead with bloody fingers. That gesture accepts both Chinemo and Chinyu as members of the outcast community. Survivors carry their leader, captured sheep, and new companions toward the crater lake. The basin resembles a gigantic bowl filled mostly with still blue water. Birds dive for fish, while caves pierce the surrounding walls at different heights. Several wolf outcasts welcome Chinemo because they recognize his tribe and shared disgrace. 2 women help him choose a cave, though damp soil makes it unsuitable long-term. Chinemo immediately considers replacing it with a grass shelter above the wet shoreline. A leopard-eared hunter presents him with the largest sheep leg as his reward. That gift confirms the tribe respects his rescue and the weapon that made it possible. The tiger leader remains near death, leaving future leadership dangerously uncertain. A massive gray-furred wolf quickly announces his desire to claim that position. He expects Chinemo to share the prized meat and leaves irritated when refused. At the lake, Chinemo discovers abundant fish and sees enough resources for permanent settlement. However, returning to his cave reveals 2 wolfmen already devouring the sheep leg. The gray-furred challenger has entered without permission and taken food belonging to newcomers. Weaker tribe members crouch nearby, waiting for whatever scraps the bully abandons. Chinemo walks forward and seizes the meat instead of accepting another humiliation. The large wolf bares his teeth, pleased that the newcomer has accepted combat. Tribal custom prevents others from interfering once the one-on-one challenge begins. A blood-stained bone club gives the heavier man an obvious advantage at close range. Chinemo retreats with his spear, causing everyone to mistake preparation for fear. The challenger advances carelessly because he believes a wooden shaft cannot harm him. Chinemo throws and the stone point drives completely through the wolfman's abdomen. Rage carries the wounded brute forward, but blood loss already clouds his vision. Chinemo avoids the swinging club and thrusts a second spear into his kidney. Strength disappears instantly, dropping the bully face first into the dirt within seconds. Every watching wolf lowers his head because defeat demands submission under their tradition. The leopard hunter raises Chinemo's hand while approval echoes around the crater. Chinemo gives the recovered sheep meat to 4 starving wolves who expected only scraps. That choice displays a different kind of leadership before anyone officially grants him authority. As evening falls, he prepares his bow drill while the settlement watches from afar. Sparks rise beneath his hands and terror spreads because the outcasts believe fire brings disaster. Chinemo calmly feeds the growing flame, ready to show them that fear can become power. The outcasts recoil from the fire, but Chinemo remains seated beside it without fear. He surrounds the flames with stones, preventing sparks from reaching dry grass nearby. The leopard hunter approaches first, trembling slightly while studying the controlled heat. Chinemo explains that fire becomes useful when someone understands how to contain it. The words exceed the hunter's limited language, yet Chinemo's calm actions make the lesson clear. Chinyu sets their clay jar above the stove and fills it with lake water. Steam soon rises from the vessel, attracting curious faces from every surrounding cave. Dried meat and crushed berries turn the boiling water into fragrant soup. Hungry children creep closer while adults remain beyond what they consider a safe distance. Chinyu notices a serious little cat-eared girl wearing a crown of wildflowers. She draws the child close and offers her the first small serving. The girl copies Chinemo by blowing across the hot surface before tasting it. Her eyes widen immediately, and she drains the entire bowl without stopping. That reaction finally convinces several adults to approach and accept their own portions. Chinemo shares the whole pot with everyone brave enough to sit beside the flames. By night's end, the tribe fears him less and watches him with growing wonder. He has shown them more than a weapon that kills powerful enemies. He can produce warmth-cooked food, clean water, and flavors they never imagined. The next morning, silence gathers outside Chinemo's cave around the tiger leader's body. His abdominal wound proved too severe despite every medicinal plant Chinemo applied. Chinemo remembers the injured man resisting the lions when escape was still possible. Such courage earns genuine grief from a newcomer who barely knew him. Following tribal tradition, the outcasts place their leader inside his old cave. Together they collapse the entrance until earth and stone become his permanent grave. Once the burial ends, Jia approaches Chinemo with several surviving hunters. They kneel, lower their foreheads, and wait without offering any explanation. More people follow until the entire crater settlement is bowing before him. Jia names Chinemo their leader, and no one voices a single objection. Chinemo never planned to claim authority, yet strength alone did not earn this moment. He saved their hunters, defeated their bully, shared food, and controlled disaster itself. 7 days later, the settlement already moves according to his first organized routines. Women braid bark rope, while children shape small clay bowls beside Chinyu. The rabbit girl has cleaned and combed the serious cat child who first tasted soup. She patiently praises every uneven pot as the children imitate her movements. Meanwhile, Chinemo leads a dozen spear carriers far beyond the crater mountain. Nearby herds have learned to avoid the outcasts, forcing hunters to travel farther. Their target is a group of wild cattle grazing beneath an isolated tree. Even beast-shifting tribes avoid these animals because their charges can crush bone instantly. Chinemo trusts formation endurance and repeated spear attacks more than reckless courage. On his signal, Jia rushes from the western grass and deliberately startles 3 cattle. The frightened animals stampede directly toward Chinemo's hidden line of hunters. At close range, a dozen stone-tipped spears strike through their thick hides. 2 bulls keep running despite multiple shafts bouncing from their heaving bodies. The hunters rise screaming, forcing the wounded cattle away from the main herd. Instead of chasing at full speed, Chinemo maintains a steady, patient pursuit. Whenever the bulls stop, another wave of spears prevents them from recovering. Blood loss and exhaustion gradually overcome strength that no single hunter could match. One bull escapes, but the group brings down both a large and smaller animal. The hunters cheer because teamwork has defeated prey their old weapons could never threaten. Darkness arrives before they can carry both carcasses back toward the crater. Chinemo orders the men to camp beneath large trees and build several fires. Predators remain outside the light while he demonstrates careful butchering techniques. He removes the small bull's hide as intact as his crude tools allow. Treated cowhide can become clothing containers, bindings, and eventually protective armor. Chinemo separates organs and tendons while every hunter watches his hands closely. His old memories include veterinary training, though laboratory work never prepared him for this scale. Leadership now means turning personal knowledge into skills the entire tribe can repeat. Development will not happen through one miracle, but through hundreds of practical improvements. Beneath a star-filled sky, Jia asks Chinemo to teach him more than hunting. The leopard man wants full speech, clearer thoughts, and names for unfamiliar tools. Leopard mothers normally raise children alone before sending them into solitary adulthood. Jia's failed transformation made that traditional independence impossible, driving him toward the outcasts. Chinemo begins his lesson immediately by naming the stone knife held between them. Jia repeats each word with the same concentration Chinyu once showed beside the stream. Thoughts of Chinyu remind Chinemo that she has recently become unusually tired. Before he can examine that concern, wild wolf howls cut through the quiet night. The hunters reach for weapons, though fire should discourage a normal pack from approaching. A familiar bear roar suddenly rises between the howls and changes everything. Chinemo takes 4 men toward the sound, leaving the others guarding the cattle. The bald bear has suffered almost constant misfortune since losing his stream territory. A saber-toothed tiger drove him from another cave before he could establish a home. Later, wild wolves stole his kill and pursued him from daylight into darkness. His wooden spear broke during those struggles, leaving beast transformation as his only defense. After exhausting that power, the bear stands surrounded with wounds covering his body. A massive gray pack leader waits until resistance disappears before moving forward. The bear beats his chest one final time, preparing to die on his feet. Then human shouting erupts from the grass, making the Wolf King hesitate. Chinemo's men charge together with spears raised and firelight behind them. The exhausted bear recognizes Chinemo and relief floods across his battered face. His strength finally gives out, dropping him unconscious before the startled wolves. When he awakens, woven branches surround him instead of familiar stone walls. Chinemo has placed him inside a dry lean-to built above the damp crater caves. 7 or 8 deep wounds would have killed almost any other beast-eared person. Bear blood turns those fatal injuries into damage his body can slowly overcome. Starvation remains the greater threat, so Chinemo personally brings him warm meat broth. No other tribesman dares approach someone capable of transforming into a bear. Their leader calmly feeds the stranger 3 bowls while everyone watches from outside. Color returns to the bear's face as warmth and nourishment begin restoring him. Before Chinemo leaves, he finally explains that the wolf stranger has a name. From that moment, the bear begins calling him Chinemo, instead of simply identifying his species. The 2 cattle feed the tribe for days while work continues around the lake. Chinemo scratches a rough schedule onto the cave wall to organize every responsibility. At night, he teaches Chinyu sewing with bone needles and twisted bark thread. Once she understands, she carries the method to women working throughout the settlement. 2 patient men begin learning pottery while others shape tools and practice spear throwing. Bark rope becomes nets carrying bags, straps traps, and countless necessary bindings. Nobody remains idle because winter will punish every unfinished task when the herds disappear. One resource cannot be produced beside the lake, and Chinemo considers it essential. Meat contains some sodium, but not enough to keep hard-working bodies healthy indefinitely. Without salt, hunger deepens, muscles weaken, and stored food becomes harder to preserve. Chinemo decides to locate mineral deposits by following mountain goats through the surrounding valleys. Before that expedition, he tests another invention built from wood and bark rope. The whole settlement gathers as several men drag a rough raft into shallow water. Chinemo climbs aboard and uses a long pole to move beyond the shoreline. Cheers follow him, although almost no one understands why floating could become useful. Once the pole stops touching bottom, he unfolds a weighted casting net. Drilled stones and bone pieces pull the woven bark downward through the clear lake. The first throw traps several fish, but the bottom fails to close properly. Most escape before Chinemo hauls the net back onto the unstable raft. Repeated attempts reveal another weakness as wet bark fibers begin snapping apart. Large holes spread through the net until continued fishing becomes completely impossible. Chinemo refuses disappointment because the principle works even when the material fails. He returns with 3 fish, enough to prove that underwater hunting is unnecessary. That modest success excites people who have only caught fish with hands or clubs. Back at camp, the recovering bear urgently points towards several rotting wounds. He needs medicine stronger than clean water food and natural resistance. Unable to explain this plant verbally, he draws it with a stick in damp soil. Chinemo expects meaningless scratches but sees every leaf and stem rendered precisely. Years of solitary observation have made this enormous warrior a remarkably talented artist. The detailed image gives Chinemo enough information to search for the correct herb. He takes 4 men, including a young wolf outcast whom he names Tsang. Their route begins along traps recently placed across the mountain's eastern side. Most have failed, proving the mechanisms still need stronger triggers and better concealment. One trap holds a squirrel, while a cat-eared climber gathers chicks and eggs above. The group descends into unfamiliar valleys while tracking signs left by mountain goats. A large python and countless insects force them to watch every step. One bite in these isolated mountains could end a life before help arrives. The deer-eared hunter discovers round red flowers recognized from his former tribe. His people use them for stomach pain, making the plants valuable despite uncertain properties. Chinemo gathers them alongside dandelions already known to reduce swelling and inflammation. Each tribe carries fragments of medicine that become more powerful when shared together. A dark shape with horns suddenly crosses the ridge above their position. The hunters sprint upward and discover goats standing confidently on a sheer rock face. Their bodies can run for hours, but climbing remains difficult for most 2-legged hunters. Spears erase that advantage by crossing space no handheld club can reach. One shaft strikes a gray mountain goat and knocks it from its narrow ledge. While his men secure the carcass, Chinemo chips fragments from the exposed cliff. A cautious taste reveals bitterness and only the faintest trace of salt. The deposit is poor, but boiling and filtering may still produce useful crystals. Chinemo collects several chunks before considering the land beyond the blade-shaped peak. His companions stop him because the opposite slope belongs to a transforming tribe. Such clans dominate these mountains through combined intelligence numbers and animal strength. With limited supplies, Chinemo turns home rather than risking an unnecessary confrontation. Near the crater mountain, Song notices strangers moving across the lower slopes. The group races into the pine forest and observes the approaching force from boulders. 8 lion warriors climb beside more than a dozen spotted hyena trackers. Chinemo recognizes the same lions driven away during the tiger leader's rescue. They have brought sharper noses to locate the hidden outcasts and avenge their humiliation. Hyena people are smaller than wolves, but faster, more aggressive, and skilled at stealing prey. Chinemo sends Tsang ahead to warn the settlement and gather every available fighter. He keeps 3 hunters behind for an ambush among traps surrounding the pine forest. Each man hides separately, with one throwing spear and another for close defense. Their plan is simple: strike, once retreat, and make the enemy chase through prepared ground. The leading hyena stops within 30 meters as its twitching nose finds Chinemo. Chinemo throws first, but the transformed creature dodges with astonishing reflexes. Cold sweat spreads across his back because these trackers are faster than expected. The other hunters attack together, and the cat-eared man wounds one hyena. Its grating screech brings the entire pack racing uphill toward their hiding places. Chinemo orders retreat and sprints between the trees, with snarls closing rapidly behind. The cat hunter nearly gets caught before leaping vertically onto a pine trunk. 2 hyenas shift into human form beneath him because human hands can climb. The cat man drives his remaining spear through one climber's neck from above. He jumps into neighboring branches before additional enemies can reach his position. Elsewhere, Chinemo crosses a patch of ground marked in his memory. The fastest pursuing hyena steps onto camouflage and crashes into a hidden pit. Sharpened stakes catch its body, while the 2 behind it stop in confusion. Chinemo turns during that hesitation and sends another spear toward the exposed trackers. Screams begin echoing throughout the forest as separate traps catch more pursuers. The surviving hyenas gather together, suddenly afraid of every quiet patch of ground. Their lion commander arrives and discovers that half his trackers have already vanished. Instead of continuing blindly, he examines the weapons recovered from dead and wounded bodies. The Lion King grips one shaft, studies its balance, and tests it against a tree. His throw buries the stone point deep into a pine trunk 20 meters away. Interest replaces anger because he now understands what made the Outcasts dangerous. The lions collect every abandoned spear and withdraw before reinforcements reach the forest. Tsang returns with Jia and more fighters, just as Chinnamo's scattered group reunites. No one has suffered serious injury, and the cat hunter earns praise for quick thinking. A scout confirms the enemy is gone, but another discovery unsettles Chinnamo. Every thrown spear has disappeared with the retreating lion warriors. Their leader now possesses the design balance and basic principle behind the weapon. Lion strength combined with ranged attacks could overwhelm anything the Outcasts currently field. Chinnamo looks toward the cowhides drying beside camp and recognizes his next priority. Hunting skills are useless if the tribe cannot survive an organized enemy attack. 3 men begin grinding selected stones day and night into crude axe heads. Chinnamo burns grooves into thick wooden handles and widens them with smaller tools. Producing 3 workable axes requires 2 exhausting days of continuous effort. Once finished, the deer-eared hunter supervises cutting pine trees around the mountain. Planks remain beyond their tools, so Chinnamo designs protection from thinner available materials. Women gather a flexible, thorn-covered vine discovered near the far side of the lake. They place thumb-thick sticks together and bind them tightly into a broad panel. Tanned cowhide covers both faces while additional vine reinforces the vulnerable edges. 2 central holes hold straps, creating a shield roughly 1 meter tall. Chinyu quickly copies the design and teaches other women to repeat each step. Chinnamo names the invention the thorny cowhide shield before beginning impact tests. He first gives the serious cat child a stone and asks her to throw. Her opening attempt strikes his thigh instead of the shield and leaves painful bruising. The child's strength reminds him that even young beast-eared bodies exceed human expectations. A second stone hits the raised shield and fails to break through. Chinyu reluctantly throws a spear which sinks into the hide without penetrating deeply. The cat hunter tests from 20 meters and lands his second attempt at the center. While Chinnamo prepares another dangerous trial, the little cat girl offers a smarter solution. She suggests hanging the shield on wood instead of keeping him behind it. Chinnamo laughs at himself for overlooking an answer obvious to a child. Mounted on a post, the shield survives increasingly powerful spear strikes at different ranges. Chinnamo's strongest throw penetrates only when released from within 5 meters. The result is imperfect armor but sufficient protection against ordinary stone weapons. He increases patrols and permanently stations the cat hunter inside the pine forest. 5 men begin practicing simple shield formations with direct spear thrusts. Raising protection and striking together requires little complexity but creates reliable battlefield discipline. The expected lion retaliation never arrives, giving the tribe valuable preparation time. Chinyu finds the herb drawn by the bear, allowing Chinnamo to treat his remaining infections. Their medicine collection now includes 7 plants, with uses confirmed by different tribal memories. Food remains abundant during early summer, but Chinnamo knows hunting alone cannot support winter. Raising animals becomes necessary, although no one in the settlement understands domestication yet. Salt also remains scarce despite the mineral chunks gathered from the eastern cliff. Chinnamo boils crushed rock filters away grit, then evaporates the remaining liquid. A tiny layer of crude salt crystals finally appears at the bottom. The amount is disappointingly small, and most enters soup for the recovering bear. Salted broth helps restore his strength until he can jog along the lakeshore. Meanwhile, women weave grass sandals to protect feet from sharp stone and hidden thorns. Chinnamo encourages bathing, mouth rinsing, and cleaning food from between teeth. These habits seem strange, but fewer stomach problems gradually weaken resistance. On the night before another hunt, Chinyu works silently beside the cave fire. Her drooping ears reveal worry that has nothing to do with the next expedition. Women have told her that adults sharing one cave are expected to become mates. Chinnamo finally understands why she has watched him leave with increasing uncertainty. He accepts that tribal adulthood follows different standards from those remembered on Earth. By morning, their relationship has changed, and Chinyu no longer fears abandonment. Chinemo leaves the cave exhausted enough to reconsider underestimating rabbit endurance. 10 hunters assemble below, half carrying shields and half carrying extra spears. Near the mountain base, they find a rare deer herd before tracks disappear north. 11 coordinated hunters surround the leading stag and overwhelm its impressive antlers. 4 deer fall, while the group captures one recently weaned fawn alive. The young animal suffered a broken leg beneath its own panicking herd. Chinemo keeps it fed and restrained, planning the tribe's first attempt at animal raising. 3 rainy days pass, as children take turns touching the nervous creature beside the lake. Food stores and stronger defenses finally allow Chinemo to plan a second salt expedition. This time he chooses only the deer hunter and the fully recovered bear as companions. The bear receives the name Chu-Amo and celebrates because it sounds close to Chinemo. With 2 days allowed for travel, the 3 men head west toward an unknown salt source. Chu-Amo quickly proves his name fits beside Chinemo by hurling spears beyond ordinary hunting range. One throw passes completely through a bighorn sheep, leaving even Chinemo impressed by bear strength. Deer Ming carries supplies while learning fire-making tracking medicine and increasingly complicated responsibilities. During camp, Chu-Amo discovers dark green stone and prepares to smash it for cutting edges. Chinemo recognizes jade, once valuable on Earth, but useful here mainly because it fractures sharply. The new jade blades slice hide and grass far more easily than their older stone tools. That evening, a distant watcher appears along the slope but refuses to approach their fire. Chinemo leaves roasted meat nearby, using hunger instead of force to test the stranger's intentions. By dawn, a starving snow leopard girl crouches beside camp, gnawing the offered bones. Her broken teeth and filthy body reveal that she can no longer hunt effectively alone. Startled by Deer Ming, she flees, but continues following the group through the mountains. Farther southwest, Chinemo encounters a rock sheep tribe guarding a narrow canyon. Their warriors order the outsiders away until Chu-Amo transforms and roars beside Chinemo. Chinemo explains that he seeks salt, and the sheep leader accidentally glances deeper into the canyon. That reaction confirms the hidden deposit, but the tribe offers access through a trade. A predator attacks their herd whenever they enter, so they want Chinemo's group to drive it away. Chinemo suspects the feared predator is merely the toothless snow leopard girl trailing them. He accepts because helping the sheep may create an alliance valuable beyond one mineral deposit. Behind a broad waterfall, the herd enters a hidden cave while warriors guard the vulnerable line. The snow leopard finally attacks, but Chu-Amo's charging bear form frightens her away unharmed. Her betrayed expression shows she cannot understand predators choosing to protect herbivores. With the bargain fulfilled, the sheep leader allows Chinemo into the misty cave. White salt crystals coat the walls, giving the expedition everything it came to find. Chinemo gathers heavy chunks and begins the hard return march without exploring deeper passages. That night, crushed salt transforms roasted pheasant into the finest meal they have eaten here. The snow leopard appears beside the fire again, bruised from attacking the sheep after their departure. Chinemo warns her to stop and offers permanent food if she joins his people. She runs from the invitation, yet silently follows them all the way home. At the lake, Chinemo dissolves, settles filters, and evaporates the mineral into crude crystals. Instead of distributing salt freely, he rewards work, courage, and contribution with measured portions. Once everyone tastes salted soup, productivity rises faster than any threat could have achieved. Chinemo then begins wooden construction, though primitive axes make every log painfully expensive. Frightened children report the snow leopard watching from the opposite side of the crater. Chinemo builds her a moss-covered shelter and leaves warm bedding beneath nearby spruce trees. She pretends indifference until everyone leaves, then crawls inside and sleeps with a smile. 20 summer days later, 2 proper cabins stand beside the lake. A standardized wooden measuring stick allows workers to cut logs with consistent dimensions. Raised floors, pitched roofs, hides moss, and fireplaces make the buildings warmer than caves. One cabin belongs to Chinemo, while the second shelters all 6 children. His attempts at making bows fail because the wood and tendon strings still perform poorly. Gia assumes field command during hunts, while Chinemo manages construction and new inventions. Hunters return with live chickens, adding them beside captured goats and the injured fawn. Removing flight feathers begins the slow process of turning wild birds into domestic stock. Gia also spreads Chinemo's language lessons until the entire tribe begins forming clearer sentences. Summer peace ends when Chu Amo warns that migrating cave bears are approaching from the north. These enormous shifters drive away prey and demand tribute from every nearby tribe. Their shamans specifically request failed transformers later consuming the sacrifices alive. The Crater tribe has surrendered 2 outcasts and hunted animals every year. What began as gratitude toward a protective cave bear ancestor became violent extortion. Chinemo refuses to continue a tradition that treats his people like livestock. Direct battle remains impossible, so he chooses migration over heroic but meaningless death. Chinyu reveals that abundant fruit and safer lands exist south of the Ancestor Mountains. She once crossed those peaks alone, proving the whole tribe can survive the journey together. While scouting the empty plains, Chinemo sees animals stampeding before white-furred elephants. 2 towering elephant women transform and drive away a colossal cave bear with calm authority. Nearby, Chinemo's old wolf shaman appears, confirming many tribes are gathering for something enormous. The snow leopard, now called Meow Meow, finally explains that shamans plan war against cave bears. She also warns that the lion tribe intends to attack Chinemo during the chaos. Before evacuation begins, wolves invade the pine forest and trap Cat Knight during night patrol. Chinemo assembles 15 warriors into a shield circle as dozens of wolves surround them. Their leader is Chinemo's father, accompanied by the younger brother and sister who watched his exile. Chinemo steps outside the formation and orders the Wolf King to leave his territory. His fluent challenge shocks warriors who remember only a powerless, rejected child. Chinemo's younger brother attacks first, but a spear shaft knocks him from the air. 2 wolves attempt a flanking ambush and collapse beneath a coordinated volley. Fear finally enters the Wolf King's eyes as stone spears turn familiar tactics into slaughter. Chinemo's sister pleads sweetly for mercy, using the same helpless expression she once weaponized. He remembers that she showed no guilt when the tribe abandoned him to die. Still, Chinemo spares his brother because the boy's attack was meant to prevent greater bloodshed. The defeated wolves retreat, carrying their wounded, while their former reject remains standing as chief. Chinemo tells the outcasts that every powerful tribe sees them only as sacrifices or prey. Jia raises his fist first, and years of humiliation erupt through the settlement as one roar. They burn the cabins, collapse the caves, and abandon Mirror Lake before enemies return. 6 difficult days later, the tribe descends into bamboo forest beside a broad river. Chinemo immediately chooses the location because bamboo water plains and jungle promise growth. On the 3rd day, hunters discover wild jackals exhausting a panda mother protecting her son. The mother spends her last strength lifting the child onto bamboo before the pack kills her. When his grip fails after sunset, Chinemo's hidden hunters strike the waiting jackals with spears. The rescued panda boy awakens inside a bamboo hut among people carrying poles and baskets. Chinyu feeds him roasted chicken and teaches him that controlled fire is not disaster. Chinemo's childhood in Sichuan gives him genuine bamboo weaving experience rather than researched theory. He organizes specialists for patrols, construction, hunting, gathering, sewing, and training. Cat Knight leads nocturnal scouts, Jia oversees combat, and Chinyu manages the women. The serious cat child receives the name Cat Moon after demanding an identity of her own. 4 trenches soon outline a village with bamboo walls rising 4 meters above ground. While construction advances, a snake bites Lamb Boy near the river and blackens his leg. Deerming's inherited anti-venom herb fails, as the child's heartbeat becomes dangerously weak. At that moment, patrols capture an elderly cow-eared traveler carrying herbs and wearing cloth. The stranger identifies green water snake venom and asks permission to attempt treatment. Chinemo allows him to cut the child, release black blood, and prepare unfamiliar medicines. The old man even mixes his own blood into the remedy before making Lamb Boy swallow. Half a day later, the child remains alive, accomplishing what Chinemo could not. The traveler identifies himself as Sioux and Earth Wiseman from civilizations along Moon River. Wisemen roam between tribes, spreading language and one survival skill to developing settlements. Sioux warns that the bamboo village stands near aggressive pig-ear territory. Offered one lesson, Chinemo requests medical knowledge instead of easier hunting or richer food. Impressed Sioux teaches treatment for green water snake venom and draws heartleaf grass. He also shares rare wound powder when Meow Meow returns injured by southern pig people. Sioux departs before dawn, leaving Chinemo with proof that greater civilizations already exist. Soon afterward, 9 pig warriors enter the jungle while tracking Meow Meow's scent. Chinemo surrounds them but offers a warning rather than launching a hidden ambush. Their leader answers with insults and sends a mud-armored boar charging into the formation. 16 spears fly as the remaining pig warriors transform and rush from every direction. Chu-Amo smashes the leading boar downward while Chinemo and Deer Ming stab its belly. 3-man teams use shields to absorb charges before axes strike exposed heads and flanks. The boars break every shield, yet coordinated movement prevents any outcast from falling. Meow Meow drops from a tree and kills the first enemy forced back into human form. The largest boar repeatedly chases Chinemo toward an ancient tree at the battlefield's edge. Chinemo pretends to stumble, inviting a final charge aimed directly at his body. Meow Meow leaps overhead, catches his hand, and swings him clear at the last moment. The boar crashes into the trunk and falls stunned beneath immediate axe strikes. Chu-Amo tears apart 2 others, revealing frightening power behind his normally simple behavior. Cat Knight captures 2 fleeing pigmen while the remaining attackers die around the clearing. Chinemo hangs severed heads as a warning that the river settlement has owners. Interrogation reveals an ape-ear tribe 5 days east that produces woven linen. The prisoners become workers receiving food while helping complete the remaining bamboo defenses. Chinemo builds a tendon-strung bamboo bow whose arrows penetrate boar hide from 30 meters. Cat Knight masters it almost immediately and receives the first finished weapon as his reward. Weeks later, summer heat settles over a fully enclosed bamboo village. Families dry berries, weave baskets, raise animals, fish with traps, and train beside the walls. During another salt expedition, Chu-Amo steals honey and brings a swarm of hornets after them. The 3 travelers escape into a pool where a giant python coils around Deer Ming underwater. Chinemo cuts the snake while Chu-Amo tears at its head until the coils loosen. On shore, Chinemo uses rhythmic chest compressions until Deer Ming coughs weakly. 3 deer women appear, led by a young shaman who offers further treatment. Their ritual medicine revives Deer Ming while revealing that the python threatened their only water. The Deer Ear tribe welcomes Chinemo for removing a predator they could not defeat. Their matriarchal settlement contains roughly 100 people who ride domesticated spotted deer. At night, Chinemo teaches the young shaman chest compressions in exchange for future knowledge. Their growing trust establishes the tribe's first meaningful southern alliance. Back home, Cat Moon presents a metallic stone discovered by her brother. Firing the ore produces soft, silvery lumps that Chinemo recognizes as genuine tin. The tribe sees weak metal, but Chinemo sees the first step beyond the Stone Age. Before locating more ore, Cat Knight disappears while pursuing 2 strangers beyond the jungle. Chinemo finds him holding 2 ape-ear traders at bow range on open ground. The traders carry linen-improved pottery glue and knowledge of distant tribal commerce. Chinemo exchanges chickens and cattle horn for cloth and a sealed jar of adhesive. They reveal that a great autumn trading gathering will occur 7 days east. Tin goods could purchase resources that would otherwise require months of searching and labor. The deer shaman soon visits with salt rocks and 2 tame spotted deer. Chinemo agrees to refine her tribe's salt while keeping the exact process secret. A shared feast of drums, flute music, fire, and dancing strengthens their connection. When the deer party leaves, a giant white tiger attacks them in the bamboo mountains. Song remains behind while the exhausted deer women transform and escape uphill. His bow breaks his spear, fails, and the tiger prepares to kill him at close range. Meow. Meow arrives first, distracting the predator until Chinemo's rescue party throws spears. The wounded tiger chooses an earlier deer kill rather than risk injury against 7 opponents. Everyone survives, but the encounter proves a dangerous predator now controls the nearby mountain. Chinemo postpones the tiger hunt because securing the southern tin deposit remains urgent. While collecting ore, he and Meow Meow smell blood beyond a low hill. They discover a pig shaman performing sacrifice above dozens of severed rabbit heads. Before they withdraw, rival boars and mountain wolves attack the ceremony in a tribal war. The cowardly shaman transforms and flees directly toward their hiding place. He crashes into a boulder, allowing Chinemo and Meow Meow to capture him alive. Back at the village, the prisoner offers seeds and agricultural knowledge to preserve his life. His people planted a wild grain in southern swamps after learning cultivation from a wise man. Chinemo recognizes that farming can support far more people than hunting ever will. The shaman joins the other prisoners as a laborer, while metal experiments continue. Crushed ore and charcoal finally pour molten tin into carefully shaped clay molds. Shiny bowls emerge rough with impurities but miraculous beside stone and pottery. Chinemo names his mixed community the Vessel Tribe, avoiding every single species' identity. The name represents tools, containers, cooperation, and the civilization they intend to build. As summer fades, clipped wild chickens produce the settlement's first egg. That small success confirms domestication can create food repeatedly instead of ending with one kill. Visiting the deer shaman, Chinemo trades 7 tin bowls for hides, antlers, and cleaning grass. The plant foams with saliva, providing the tribe its first practical method for cleaning teeth. The shaman warns him not to display tin at the autumn gathering. Powerful tribes obey fairground rules but may follow weaker traders home afterward. A mostly non-shifting tribe carrying metal would attract greed from enemies far stronger than pigs. Chinemo accepts the warning and begins planning deeper trenches beyond the completed bamboo walls. Then Amo returns from his mountain territory, with grief breaking his usual cheerful expression. The white tiger has killed the solitary female bear he hoped would become his mate. Tears from the loyal giant turn Chinemo's strategic concern into a personal obligation. The tiger has also been wounded, giving them a narrow chance to remove it. Chinemo leaves capable defenders behind and assembles 10 armed hunters for the expedition. Amo guides them toward Pine Tree Mountain carrying an enormous handmade stone axe. Gia and the others climb quietly because inherited terror of tigers runs through every bloodline. Halfway up, they discover the dead bear woman's cave and gifts Amo once brought her. Clay pots inside the lonely shelter crack his composure more deeply than any battlefield wound. Chinemo places a hand against his back and orders everyone to rest before searching at dawn. Meow removes her deerskin boots and sits near the cave with unusual tension. Chinemo keeps her close because even her speed cannot guarantee escape from this tiger. The hunters prepare fires, inspect spearheads, and listen for movement among the dark pines. Amo sharpens his stone axe while grief hardens into silent determination. Gia arranges shields near the cave entrance in case the predator attacks during darkness. Every man understands that their usual traps may fail against a cat this intelligent. The tiger already avoided Song's spear, abandoned risky prey, and chose safer opportunities. Defeating it will require more than numbers, noise, or the weapons that frightened lions. Chinemo studies the slopes, searching for narrow ground where speed and agility become limited. He considers bait-concealed pits, falling timber fire, and Amo's overwhelming strength. None of those ideas can succeed unless they first discover the tiger's exact resting place. Fresh blood scent proves it remains injured, but injury may make the predator more unpredictable. Meow's ears turn toward every faint sound beyond the firelight. Chinemo notices that she understands this enemy's movements better than anyone present. As another feline, she knows how it stalks, retreats, tests defenses, and protects escape routes. Her knowledge may become the difference between a successful hunt and complete destruction. Amo refuses food until Chinemo forces a portion of roasted meat into his hands. Revenge cannot restore his mate, but starving before battle would only give the tiger another corpse. The bear finally eats while staring at the clay pot he once carried up this mountain. Around him, hunters remain quiet, respecting grief they cannot solve with words. Chinemo remembers how Amo warned him before the wolves claimed the stream. That simple act of loyalty began everything that later brought the bear into their tribe. Amo followed through exile, migration, battle construction, and every dangerous expedition. Now the entire Vessel tribe stands behind him when his own loss demands an answer. Beyond the cave, the wind moves through pine branches with a low whisper. A distant bird suddenly stops calling, leaving one section of forest unnaturally silent. Meow raises her head first, amber eyes narrowing toward the dark slope. Gia grips his spear while shield bearers quietly shift closer together. Amo rises without being told, stone axe hanging beside one massive leg. Chinemo extinguishes the brightest flames so their eyes can adjust to the darkness. Wolf vision reveals trunks, rocks, and empty ground, but no striped shape appears. The silence may mark the tiger's presence or merely fear left behind by its earlier passage. Chinemo refuses to send anyone outside before daylight gives them a fairer battlefield. They reinforce the cave entrance and maintain watches in pairs through the remaining night. No attack comes yet. Nobody mistakes that absence for safety. Somewhere on Pine Tree Mountain, a wounded white tiger still controls every shadow. At sunrise, Meow Meow will trace its blood while Chuamo follows with his axe. Chinemo's hunters will move together, never offering the predator an isolated target. Their preparations end at the dead bear woman's cave as the first pale light reaches the pines. Chinemo rises beside his grieving friend, ready to begin the hunt exactly where the tiger's trail awaits.